My name's Guy Kestevan. I've been a professional bike and kit tester for nearly 25 years, and today this is the bike check on Canyon's brand new Spectral CFR. So if you've already watched the CF8 and CF9 Canyon Spectral videos, this will look very, very familiar because, well, essentially it is the same mould with the same features, same geometry as those two bikes, but with a new CFR Canyon factory racing layup. So higher quality carbon fibre, which saves 300 grams on average per frame. And this was already a pretty lightweight bike. I mean, 2,600 grams was not a heavyweight for a 150mm travel bike, but now drops down to sub 2,300 in some frame sizes. So seriously lightweight. I mean, that's what most brands will call a downcountry bike. Yet here, you've got Fox 36 160mm up front, and then Fox Float X giving you 150mm travel out the back. So proper full-on aggro enduro suspension, but with a seriously light frame. But anyway, I'm going to go through, there's a full live ride review to go with this as well, so make sure you watch that for the riding impressions. I'm just going to go through the numbers and the tech features here. So like I say, going through the componentry, you have Fox 36 battery up front, full grip 2 damper, so high and low speed compression on the top there, and then high and low speed rebound under the bucket under there. You've got that floating axle system, so that allows for the float of the legs, just so they're not binding together as they compress, so it's a super smooth action. I'm actually running a reasonable amount of high and low speed compression on this fork, just because even though I'm only a 70 kilo relatively light rider, it gives me some adjustment. Before I had to run Fox fully open, which is always a bit depressing. But again, more aggro kit. You've got 200mm rotors front and rear on these Shimano XTR brakes, and obviously you've got XTR levers up at the bar as well. Canyon's G5 grip and Canyon's very, very special looking G5 integrated cockpit. But the good news is this is a significantly different shape to the one I rode on the Spectral On, which I wasn't really a fan of. They've changed the mold slightly, changed the dynamic, so it basically feels like the bar's been rolled back a bit, and it feels like a much more natural bar sweep and bar roll to me. And obviously it is fixed, so that might be an issue for you if you don't like the shape of it, but for myself, not a problem at all. And it equates to a 40mm stem with a 780mm width, so pretty much bang on. And obviously, you know, get really nice detailings like these shape spaces in there, oversized headset through there as well, and then neat little cable plugins there, fully internal cable routing. You've also got a bolt-on mount there for this little caddy to get your and Canyon are expanding their range of accessories, so you get a really nice little torque driver, and this is that little micro tool here, and I see really nice little ratchet head on it there, dual reversible. You've got all the bits there you're likely to need, and then it screws off to leave you with a CO2 inflator as well. And you get 3 Dynaplug, the super effective brass headed tyre plugs in there as well. So like I say, Canyon doing more and more aftermarket stuff, and if this is the way they're going, then definitely worth checking that out as well. And obviously that's the little pouch there that sits on the top tube. So you've got a nice little lip on the front there, so it hooks onto the mount, and it's all tidy and secure. It's not going to rub about, it's not going to rattle, it's not going to do your painting. I mean, so obviously some bikes are putting the frame storage inside the tubes, but for Canyon they just left it external and really concentrated on making this super stiff, super light frame set. You can see really big down tube section there, and probably the largest section compared to most bikes is this kinked seat tube here. So big stout square section, and then the linkage here for what they call a triple phase suspension. It's essentially an FSR setup because you've got the pivot on the chainstay there, but again, super deep chainstays, massive. I think I've said it before, always remind me of cow's jawbone from when I was digging holes as an archaeologist for a living. But yeah, heavily armoured, tape on there. They actually based this is a really nice detail, actually based this on what they found was the best profile being used by their EWS race team when they were kind of making, they make these similar kind of battlements, whatever what you want to call them, out of gaffer tape, and they found this was pretty much the optimum solution to keep the chain quiet. And then you got more armour underneath here and here as well. So really tough. And even on the back side of the dropout there, you've got another little plastic spacer there to stop the chain jumping off and running over the back. But also, because this seat tube is kicked forward so far, you've got braces top and bottom on the stays, and that makes for a really, really stiff back end that matches outstandingly stiff, I would say, front end, right up there with sort of mega rigid bikes like the Trek Slash. You know, even though it's 300 grams lighter, because it's a high quality carbon, it's properly precise and pin sharp through the front as well. And obviously having that big 36 fork up front helps that as well. But also worth noting, they have deliberately put a little bit of compliance into the build of the rear end, just to kind of boost the traction on there, as if the grip you're getting from a DHR 2.4 3C Max Terra Exo Plus, so a little bit of reinforcement there, isn't enough. They've also engineered a slight bit of compliance in there for maximum grip. And again, like I say, 200mm rotors at the back in the XTR, and there's your XTR rear mech, and a stick. Like I say, I've been riding this a lot because it's such a versatile all-rounder. And then a 1051 12-speed cassette. The only thing that's not XTR on the transmission is this Next Raceface Next SL carbon chain set, again being beautifully lit by the late afternoon sun here at Stainburn, and again super light, really well proven crank. And I suppose XTR's never really surfaced as a crank. They had some production issues with it, getting sort of what they wanted to come out of the aluminium design, so they've just I think they've just given up, and they pretty much fit Next. It's kind of the standard fit for XTR bikes, and I've no complaints about that. You get a little chain keeper as standard, but also the threaded bottom bracket also, can actually have an insert added to take a full ISCG chain guide on there as well. Again, more armour on the down tube, so this is a properly tough frame. And other features as well, fully internal plumbed cable routing, so you just slide the cables and hoses in at that end, and they eventually come out where you want them at the far end. So really easy to service. And also, not only are these fixtures, as you can see, just replaceable there, so if you do thread them, you can actually change the adapter, you can change the thread inserts, so you're not written off the frame if you get a bit heavy-handed with the Allen keys. You've got a high-low chip there for the geometry, but otherwise, apart from that main pivot bearing down there, all of the bolts are accessible from the non-drive side. So again, really easy to get your Allen keys into and keep everything nice and tight. You know, it isn't just super light, it isn't just a great bargain bike in terms of the equipment you get and the specification of the frame. It's also a really, really easy, practical bike to work on. And you can see, even with the 2.4 in there, there's a ton of mudroom. And of course, the other thing that's blindingly obvious that I haven't mentioned yet, you have got just about room for a full bottle cage there, a 600ml bottle, and it's in a side mount cage, so nice and easy to get in and out. They haven't had to do a YT thing where they've put a special shaped bottle in there. Other bits of spec I haven't touched on yet, the fantastic DT Swiss XMC 1200 30mm wheels, premium. I think they're 2100 quid separately, near enough. So yes, premium 30mm carbon rims, DT Swiss's latest 180 hubs, lighter, stiffer hub, ceramic bearings in there as well, and the new Ratchet EXP free hub on there. So still not the fastest reacting setup you can get, but incredibly durable, rock solid hub set in a 1540 gram wheel set. So the whole bike is coming in this size large, pretty much bang on 13.4 kilos. And also the other nice practical feature that Canyon have moved to is what they call their G5 dropper post, but it's 170mm travel on this one, but it's got that little removable collar there, which lets you can just see the legend there, it actually lets you change the maximum extension by 25mm just by changing a plastic key inside the dropper post. So that gives you, I mean, it's basically the same dropper post as the PNW Rainier, which is one of my favourite droppers. Really, really good, solid post. I've had one in the Kotick Flare Max now for 18 months, and it's given me zero trouble. And just go back to the Fox Float X shock, you've got a pedal lever on the side there to firm things up, the low-speed compression. you've got further low speed compression dial there, and you've got your rebound on the far side. So full adjust, well, no, you have not got high speed compression on there, but apart from that, full shock adjustment right through, and it's the extra volume air can on there as well. So 60mm stroke and plenty of volume in the shock itself. So I've just flipped it round here so you can see here's access to all those shock and linkage bolts, nice and easy on the non-drive side. And then this is the Quicksall axle, just really neat, long leverage lever that just slots back into that bolt through axle at the rear. So again, just loads of really good practical detailing on this bike, not just kind of high performance carbon fiber. It's a really, really easy bike to live with. I actually spent a lot of time with the CF8, and I've spent several weeks with this CFR now as well. And yeah, it's just a really, really easy bike to ride and get on with. In terms of geometry, you've got 64-degree head angle, 76.5 degree seat angle. It's a 475mm reach in this large, with the 160mm fork in there, and bottom bracket is around 337 unsagged. So it's actually quite a toe tapper, because the suspension tends to drop into its mid-stroke quite easily. It's then pretty progressive, so it's actually hard to get the rest of the stroke out of it, but it actually sits quite low. Dynamically, it's quite a low bike, and obviously the frame all comes down into this center point as well, so that makes it dynamically quite low. But yeah, so he will tap your toes occasionally, but the stability you obviously get from that as a result, outstanding. And again, bottom bracket, chainstay length is again really short because they've kinked that forward so far. It's only a 437. Maybe that's where I'm getting 437 from. I'll put the proper numbers in the in a caption anyway. But yeah, it's a really short, responsive rear end. I mean, there is a mullet version of this bike, what they're calling the Canyon Spectral Collective. It's basically based on the CF8 carbon frame, but with a shorter back end, 27.5 rear wheel, and a coil shock in there. And but this, obviously, as the 300 gram lighter frame set with this full premium spec, is almost the top dog bike. There is actually a new flight attendant version as well, which has just been launched with all the new RockShox auto suspension gubbins. But if you want analog dampers, then this is top dog. And yet, you know, I mean, yeah, £6.5 grand is an insane amount of money to spend on a bike, but for the spec you're getting, that's pretty damn impressive. And I like the fact that, I mean, Canyon have got their own UK support base. That was where I did the launch. So they've got a big facility down there for customer care, but also you get a really good set of, you know, proper quality tools in the bike box with them. You get a torque wrench and things like that. So really, really easy to set the bike up properly when you get it delivered, because obviously you won't find these in the shops. But like I say, that is the quick bike tech check. But if you want an idea of just how well this superlative spec, superlative frame bike rides, and unsurprisingly, there are a lot of superlatives in that riding description, make sure you check out the live ride review as well. But for now, massive thanks to Canyon for lending me the bike to test. You know, hopefully I'll be getting the collective mullet bike as well, do some swapping around with bikes that are available. I'm potentially going to do some experimenting on this, because as good as it is now, for me personally, I think there are ways you could really, really amp up the performance of that frame and really kind of let it show even more. Because basically, those DHR tyres, they're pretty hefty and they're pretty slow rolling, and I reckon with a lighter, poppier tyre set on there, and maybe even a shorter, lighter fork and an inline shock, basically like the old CF9 spec, you could really, really maximise the effect of that lighter, sharper feeling frame. But anyway, that's further down the line. For now, massive thanks to Giro Cycling for supporting Guykes TV. Thanks to PTs as well. Thanks to Crudcatcher for keeping my face clean. And obviously PT's deal with the lube and the tubeless sealant side of things. If you noticed the chain was a little bit rusty on this, apologies. I have been riding it a lot, and I've been testing a non-PT's lube, and that's why it's ended up rusty. Pretty much as simple as that. So make sure it gets cleaned up. Sorry about that, Canyon. But also massive thanks to my Patreon supporters who support the channel with monthly pledges, and they get exclusive, early and extended behind the scenes ad-free as a thank you. So they had access to the launch video of this bike as soon as it came out with my first impressions on it, and there's a bunch of other similar footage to that on there as well. But so if you really like what I'm doing in the channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. It's only a small amount and it makes a big difference to the sustainability and the growth of the channel. But so does you subscribing, clicking for notifications, and giving this a like. So if you could do all of those three and then consider joining Patreon, even better. And tell your mates about the channel. Obviously, word of mouth is the best way to grow a YouTube channel. And yeah, and also let me know what you think of the way I do these things. I mean, there's definitely room for improvement, but if you could direct me which way you want that to happen, then that would presumably make them better for you, which is what everybody wants. But for now, I'm waffling on. But for now, I've been Guy Kestevan on Guy Kes TV, talking about the fantastic Canyon Spectral CFR.